podcast. I am your host, Michael Ofwani X, taking it to the next level. We got our brother Apollo OKO taking it to the next level. He does this, taking it. Check out his podcast, YouTube, HOF Media, taking the world by storm. And they're really doing things now in a much more divine, elevated level. And so, one of the topics that we're going to talk about today is the lust that we as men need to overcome in order to get to that next level of our lovepreneurship journey. And so, what is lovepreneurship? It is merging your love and your entrepreneurship together. Because we see too many men, they aren't able to do that, right? They're so confused in the way that they do their business. They aren't able to build family and legacy. They're making a lot of money, but they're not keeping it. You dig? And to my brother's point, and brother Shannon, he might be shining sharp, but he's not that sharp. You dig? And so we got to be able to take our brothers to the next level and really talk about how our astral projections can help us see into those intuitions, trusting our inner visions, and aligning with the culture, right? Because it's all about getting back to collectivism. Our collective culture is suffering, right? Because we're not thinking as a unit. And so my brother here is a how do you say a oil well of wisdom, right? He's about to take it to the next level. This is one of our UD families, our University of Delaware families, right? So we what we say, we were black hands. Yeah, we weren't just blue hands, we was black hands. And so we know how it go out there, having to be able to step out in the media and still do your thing. So without further ado, my brother Apollo OKO, give him a round of applause, give him a round of applause, give him a round of applause wherever you are. Talk to the people, my brother.
Yeah, man. No, I appreciate the introduction and just a little bit about myself. I'm Apollo KO, go where nobody else go. I've been behind scenes in a lot of music and entertainment industry settings, from major films to red carpets in Hollywood to major media. Um, Even being on camera and speaking with reality TV stars and reaching tens of millions of people a year in the secular space. But recently, I had a change of heart, as you may have known or seen, and God really opened up my eyes as to what I was um, feeding, right, and what team I was really playing for. And since then, I got baptized as a 30-year Christian, passenger Christian is what I like to say. But I got baptized with my fiance, and she's been a Christian for about a year now. At the same time, so it's really opened my eyes to what is going on, and specifically to the area and arena of lust. Plain and simple, the music industry is modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. It's not even a question for me. It's a lot of people doing acts that were similar of sexual immorality and youthful lust, and we're still seeing it today. Like it's such a joke how clear and concise the stories in the Bible match up with modern day scandals and sagas. So, without further ado, I'll allow brother the sorry, and my baby's in the background, so you'll see.
And you're gonna hear my baby in the background too, man. And his name is Zion. And so let's keep it
Love
biblical.
that.
Let's keep it biblical. I love what you just said. Talk to him about what the industry has revealed to you. You know, because that's definitely one thing I've seen is it's becoming so clear now that if a man can't finish the family that he started, right? If a man can't take care of his home, right? If he's not able to choose the right woman that can pour into him, then he's no good man at all, right? Because he can't even do the work that we need. The true work is first building these families, right? Because from families build into the nations, right? And so we got to be able to first build our family before we step out of here. So talk to the people about what you noticed in that.
No, amen, amen. Quite literally, the music industry, the entertainment industry, is designed to keep us blind as to where the real value of a man comes into play. And specifically, it's designed to, I believe, to train black men and the minority cultures to adopt a lifestyle that our ancestors and God had never had, had never had planned for us, right? And you hear it in the rap music talking about murdering one another. You see it in advertised on social media through OnlyFans and music video vixens and Instagram models selling us some type of form of lust and sexual desire. And then furthermore, you see it with the older generation becoming a victim or participating in the social media antics with people like Shannon Sharp chasing after youthful lust or younger women. So all across the board, you're seeing this attack on our culture, but more specifically our psychology. And a lot of us think that just because the chains have been taken off our feet, that we're still not chained up mentally in our
Come
mind.
on, bro. I
So
might have to drop that mic for you, cuz. I
but
caught it though. Go ahead, keep cooking.
and God quite literally, it gets really critical because we have to ask ourselves, who are the children of God? Who are the Israelites? Because if you ask me, there's key characteristics to look at, and just the parallel to what modern day society looks like versus ancient society. The Israelites were people who believed in God, walked away from God, got into bondage, went back to God, begged for his mercy to free them from bondage, only to get themselves back into bondage. That sounds like no other people than African descendants. And then
Facts.
furthermore, the Israelites literally exited out of Africa. That sounds no more like modern day slavery, like those who have exited slavery but now are enslaved through the mind. Um, I think yesterday was an impactful day to also bring up, and that's draft day. Draft day is
Come
the
on, bro.
biggest day of the year. It's when black men are being sold like we were in slavery on the states. White owners are literally bidding for athletes to join their teams.
Mm,
I mean, by albeit it's millions of dollars, but come on, like these are what we're doing,
mm,
what we're condoning the sport of football. And I played at University of Delaware. I played D1 football. The sport of football is a brute sport. It's no different than the Mandingos who literally had to almost fight each other or kill each other for the entertainment of their slave masters. So we got to start asking ourselves, right? What are we signing up for? Because a lot of this is mental psychology to keep us enslaved the way that we were with the way our ancestors were, got us out of only to get ourselves back into.
man. That's such an amazing breakdown, man. You just took that to the next level with that connection, that connection as it relates to what we just witnessed in the NFL draft. Because I didn't even really think about it just as it relates to directly how they just that's literally the Mandingo sports, how they have it in brute force, and so they are literally playing with our psychology in real time. And I see that as something that we need to be able to protect ourselves from. And so, talk to the people now about ways that we can protect ourselves from these psychological attacks that you see every day, if you don't mind says.
Well, I mean, the way I answer that is God tells us fornication is an issue, right? Um, Chasing fleshly desires, that's what keeps us blinded, right? It keeps us out of God. It keeps us in a perpetual downfall, in a down spiral. Um, the best way to avoid being a part of this society and entrapped by its antics is to you gotta stop fornicating. That's number one. You gotta we talked about it earlier. A man who finds a wife finds a good thing and favor from the Lord. That's precisely because it's a man who is able to be clear in his mind as the decisions he's going to make, right? You'll be more decisive, more discerning. People won't be able to get over on you like they're getting over on people like Shannon Sharp and
Mm,
things of that nature. Um,
facts.
Literally withstanding. I mean, for as a man, the
Mm,
best thing you could do for yourself is to fast from having sex out of wedlock.
mm. That's tough, man. You know the brothers out there like, man, listen, man. I
Yeah.
don't even know where to start with that request you just asked me to do, man. How do we start that up? How do we as a man? Because I know we were talking earlier. A man, type of man or the type of woman a man chooses, right, is a reflection of that man's character. And so I do definitely know that that is one sign that we're on the right direction. How does a man choose the right woman for him, or better yet, how does he become the right man to know the right woman to choose?
No, that's a great question. Um, how do you become a man who's decisive or discerning enough to find a woman who's going to enhance your life? Well, number one, being
Good
equally yoked,
breakdown.
right? Understanding how to identify a woman who believes in the same things you believe in and can bring moral guidance to the decisions that you make. So intentionality in who you choose matters. So aligning with someone who is not a godly woman is surely going to land you in an ungodly space, at least mentally or toxicity wise.
That's
And
good.
I always use the analogy
Cooking.
of the vegan versus the non-vegan. If you put a vegan and a non-vegan in a relationship, undoubtedly the vegan will suffer because the vegan, although they don't eat the food, they'll have to prepare the food, be around the food, therefore forsake their beliefs and what that food means to them. So, unfortunately, you cannot be equally yoked in relationship and not be unaffected by it. You will most certainly be affected by putting yourself in a position with a woman who is ungodly or does not align with your morality or sense of it. And then furthermore, you have things like you have to be wise with your time. The time that you spend on social media should not be chasing women or looking at twerk videos or things that may, or even money. Someone said, but money spoke louder, right? And even chasing things like money, it will always lead you down a path of temporalness and leaving you unsatisfied and unchecked. The sign of a good woman is when you could be around her and not have sex with her. The sign of a good woman is when you
That's
could
good.
come home from work and have peace and you want to be there. The sign of a good woman is that she's going to encourage you to get up, go to church, get up and go to work, get up and go to the gym, clean your face off, make sure that your skin is glowing. You know what I'm saying? These are all
Yeah,
very
bro.
good or characteristics of a woman who cares and uses her femininity to enhance your masculine life.
Man, you just described my wife, man. You just
Amen.
described my
That's
wife.
that's good.
Yeah, man. I'm glad I married her, man, because that's further confirmation. Today is one of those days, literally, that reminded me of the importance of having a woman to love that can encourage you, especially when you're down. Because that was one thing I got to share here too, man. Is because you hear my youngin today. He said, "Yeah, man, you made me." And I'm talking about it's like it's one thing I'm realizing is like so many men miss out on the joy of raising a family just because they don't have the courage to tell their lady that they failed at whatever it is they came out to do. And
Mhm.
if we as men can gain that courage, that strength to be honest and be vulnerable, right? And to still be there, because it doesn't make sense for us not to be there for our families, yet we're finding ways to do it. And so that is one thing I'm seeing is truly the critical thing we can do in this day and time, to your point of what can we do, is just being able to identify that woman. So that was such a great point that you cooked on. And if you further cook on that point, I'm gonna grab Sonny in the back and bring him in on here.
Oh, I was going to ask you before you do that. Can you kind of? All right, sure. I was going to ask you, can you kind of give us a couple key pointers of like what characteristics specifically stood out to you when choosing your partner?
Oh no, that's good. That's good. For me, it was the aspect of she was the first lady that literally we wrote out an agreement. She literally, because we met in law school, so I always got to put that out there too. So she
Okay.
was already in the spirit of being legally trained to draft different letters and things of that nature. So she was already in a very mentor space, because in that season I was a contracts tutor in my 3L year, and so I was her contracts tutor, and so she was already willing to learn from me. So she was willing to be taught from me, or willing to learn education in that regard. So I already saw that as very special, very, very, very humble, or very becoming of her. And so she took it to the next level when it just became like when it came to now, even though we were studying together and she was feeling me and we were already kind of getting active and things of that nature. It was more so now when it became time for us to take it to the next level. She had to write out the agreement of who she was. She already had her character of the things that she needed from a man in order to take to the next level. And so I literally had to line by line do a response to her, right? The things that I needed, right? And the things that would make it better for me to be able to achieve that. And so that already for me was just like different, bro. So I was just like, man, I ain't even, you know what I mean? I ain't even have to look in my, like, no one has ever looked into me this quickly, this fast, and in the future, and assessed my areas that my weaknesses. And so I was already like, bruh, like you gotta come with me so I can do this life better, you know. And so that for me was definitely what made it clear.
Yeah, man. Now, compatibility is a beautiful thing when you can find, common ground on some of the things that you're into and interested in. Unfortunately for me, my fiance and I were at the opposite ends of the spectrum. Although we're in the same culture and grew up in the same environments, we just don't align in those simple characteristic ways. But that's an amazing thing that for you and your wife. We've been able to work through things because now God has gifted us with a beautiful daughter that is that common ground. We share a very strong bond, and I tell her all the time, you gave me something no other woman has given me, and for that, I can't. I'm forever grateful. This the most beautiful thing in my life is the birth of our daughter. So and I'm sure you about to show us some pretty cool things too, because you got a beautiful family. So I'll let you.
You too, bro. You too, bro. And now you just hit it on the head, bro. And to your point of that, what I heard is that you all are complementary pairs in the sense of that you have different opposites of what you need. And so that still ends up being a different way to fill the gap, right? And so I just
Yeah.
think it's more like, to your point, we what allowed us to be different, or at least what allowed us to like figure ourselves out more so, I realized is we were able to go into business together early in our career or in
Mm.
our relationship, even before marriage. And so for me, that truly was my testing ground of if this was a woman I was ready to marry and take to the next level, how we did our business together. And so that's really what I believe lovepreneurship is all about. So I was going to ask that too. Do you and your lady right now kind of do a business together, or kind of any work on that regard?
So as I kind of alluded to earlier, our dynamic is more like severance. Like I was the provider. She's the person who takes care of the house, and that hasn't been a thing that has fulfilled neither one of us. So now
Sure.
we're kind of trying to explore opportunities where we work together or allow her to do what she was used to doing before pregnancy, which is creating creative marketing videos called UGC and things of that nature. So she has an art degree, or she went to art school and really learned graphic design and video production. She actually more qualified than I am to own a production company and production studio. So um, yeah,
That's the
so yeah, we're
you
working on it.
Hey, I'm listening. I really heard alignment, and so that's also what I hear. One,
Oh
one,
yeah,
I
go
got to
ahead.
give you kudos. I got to give you kudos because the vulnerability, the honesty is key. That is what us Divine Masculines. I hope y'all listening out there. Make sure y'all like, share, and subscribe, man. Because my brother dropping these gems. Divine Masculines. Hope y'all listening, man. Make sure y'all are able to be honest about where you lack as well as where you're strong, because that is the key. So, but from what I heard, I hear alignment. I hear that you all are actually more alike in that regard, and because she knows what you do is probably why she's more comfortable in supporting you in that regard, because you chose a woman that already is in that aspect. So I would say give yourself more credit in that regard. I would say too, to that point, um, I'm hearing, because again, what we do with lovepreneurship is what we talk about with always with grants, right? So we're always reminding people to just get out there with the grants. And so what is grants? Grants is a conveyance of money, conveyance of resources more specifically. And so resources more than money, but we like to only just think about the grants that we apply for. But one thing I'm seeing, the best grant to give yourself is the one that you already have, right? And so many of our grants, right, are going down the drain based off our expenses, our unchecked expenses. one of which is subscription costs, one of which is just us going out gallivanting in the streets with nobodies that don't plan for us to reinvest and ROI ourselves, right? So it's all about this return on investment, return on capital I'm seeing. And so one thing I'm seeing there too, just based on this conversation so far, I'm definitely hearing that would be a great to this point in the season, especially since we just earlier were talking about severance, right? Work self, and a home life self, right? That's really AI. AI is your work clone. You know, to
Yeah,
be real with you,
yeah.
like what you're creating through these AI machines, you just got to now automate a lot of that, free yourself up, and just stay at home, bro. You know what I mean? And that truly is the life, you know, in reality. So that I definitely hear that is the connection of why that movie is resonating with.
No, yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And I like the fact that you're intentional about the words that you use because con has a, no pun intended, negative connotation. So conversation is much worse than conversation. So that's interesting. I like that.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. That's the right knowledge, the right teaching that we've been learning from the master teacher Malachi Z. York, man, taking us to the next level. And
Hmm.
so check out Brother Phase 2, Brother Phase 1. He definitely is brings a lot of this conversation. Because to your point, right? Congress. Why wouldn't they call them progress? You
There's a
know,
lot.
and then we
Man,
wonder
there's
why
a
they
lot
take
of
us back.
things that I ask questions about. Right? For example, they tell us that there's 7 days in a week. We can name them: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Right? That there's 24 hours in a day. I believe that, sure. And that there's um, 4 weeks in a month, and that there's 12 months in a year, and 365.25 days in a year, or a revolution around the sun, if you want to call it that way. And then one day that occurs every 4 years called leap day. But the reality of it is, if you listen to that ensemble of different denominations of time, like hours, days, weeks, months, years, you start to realize that you're being told four truths and a lie, something to
Mm.
keep you ignorant to the fact. So how is it possible that there is 7 days in a week, 4 weeks in a month, but yet 7 times 4 is 28, and 28 never equals 29, 30, 31, or any of the months that we have in a 12-month calendar.
I
But
didn't think about that.
yeah, it's crazy. But if you do
They
the
just
math,
add days.
huh?
They just add days to it.
Bro, they just tell us. Well, the only thing that doesn't make sense is one day equals one day. That checks out. One week equals 1 week. That checks out. 1 year equals 1 year. That checks out. However, they're telling us that 1 month does not equal 1 month. That has to be incorrect. But there is a way, if you look at the lies, you can also discern the truth. Because you're
Mm.
told some truths, you can now disseminate what the lie is and then work around it through math. And
Mm.
essentially what it boils down to is that if you do, like I mentioned, if you do 365.25, we can eliminate the 0.25 every 4 years, which makes that we take away leap day, right? Because that only happens once every 4 years. You take
Mm.
that out, we're down to 365 days. If you take, there's one day that occurs every year, but only occurs once a year. What day is that?
Say it again.
There's only one day that occurs every year, but only occurs once a year. It doesn't occur once a week, once a month, or any of that. It just occurs one time a year. What day? What year would you? What day would you consider that?
Is that the first?
Basically, New Year's Day, right? It only
Okay,
happens
I'm on
one
it.
time.
Go
There's
ahead.
only one New Year day a year. So if you take that out, you're left with 364 days. If you divide 364 by 13, you get 28 perfect days, which would make 7 weeks, 7 days, and 4 weeks in a month, giving us 13 perfect months. So
Yo,
yeah,
and Masonic wise, you know, that aligns up with the way that they try to make these numbers always project out, because that's so important. They take 13 out of the floors in hotels,
oh
you
wow,
know, right and at the same time, Jesus 12 disciples plus one, he's 13.
ooh,
So
all
so it's
right, all right, we starting to get somewhere with that. I like
so
that.
so so it's interesting to your point of that, like, right? And so they're always trying to play with the number schemes of it, but really, these are the things that we always have to look at, right? Like why. And so one thing that we're always being taught is that they, to your point, they give numbers and certain numbers importance just to distract you from what's really going on over here. And what's really going on over here, to your point, is how do you say, it's us as black males not understanding the importance of our genetic superiority, just to be exact, right? The importance of understanding. It's all to distract from us what the Most High originally sent us out to do, which is be fruitful and multiply. So many brothers right now are just seeking, to your point, of money just to be fruitful, but they're not multiplying, right? And the reason why they're not multiplying is because, to your point now, they haven't chosen a woman that they're willing to invest in and continually multiply with. And to your point, we're even just saying, like, for example, the Kendrick and Drake feud, or a rap beef that went through, right? Tofurkey that went through, honestly, right? Because it wasn't even a competition, and so it wasn't even fair. And because it's day and night, right, in a sense. And literally, to that same analogy, being moon and the sun, right? We saw how Drake couldn't bring his lady to the table, right? He couldn't. You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? He couldn't bring his stripper white shouty, because that's immediate lowering class. So you see what I'm saying? So again,
Well, I'm just
another example of just
doesn't
like you
even
got to choose right.
he doesn't even have her in, like, it's not, there's no, and let's make a clear distinction, right? Um, there is no issue with where he found his woman. It's the fact that he won't stick by his woman
Come
that makes her
on,
devalued,
man, that's three.
right? So it's because you can find a good woman anywhere, right?
That's good.
And we all have
That's so
different
good, bro.
seasons. And we all had different.
That's so good, bro.
Yep, we all had different seasons in our life that we're walking through. Some of us can be in a season of depression when we come across what God has laid out for us, but not realizing it was simply a tribulation that we were going through so that we could learn the
Wow.
importance of where not to go back to, right?
Wow.
Lot was living in Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And that didn't devalue the righteousness of Lot, though although albeit he was surrounded by unrighteous men and women of the city. And God sent angels down to come bring him out of the city. So some of our partners are going to be in places and spaces that are similar to Sodom and Gomorrah. And they may even participate to some degree in that space. But until you're woke and you're awoken or you're led out of that environment, you're going to be a product of it. Just like we talked about the vegan and the non-vegan. You may not eat the food, but you prepare the food. You're surrounded by the food. Therefore, you're disregarding your belief in the food that you don't want to consume. So a lot of that happens in our world, and we have to learn to be in it and not
So
of
good.
it.
Nah, that's so good, bro. That's so good, bro. You cooking, man. You cooking, man. You just hit two major points right there. It's not that where he found his woman. It's that he won't even stand by his own decisions. That's so powerful, bro. That even just shows that he himself is ashamed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
he himself feels he got caught up. You feel me? And so that's so real, dog. And so that to my point right there, even just what we started this whole thing off with, my biggest discernment of character, of how well a man's head is on his shoulders, right? If he's going the right direction, is what type of woman does he choose to empower his life, right? What type of vision does he have? Because that is such a reflection of the type of man you seek to be. And so that's so good, bro. That's so good. And to the other point of what you just made there too, what I'm saying is uh, when speaking because to your point of of connection or connection, I see, like, with my wife in particular, how we met, right? We were able to. It was really her choosing, or her being able to discern that difference, right? Being able to stand by, being able to or how I better say, she was able to take, she was able to envision a reality that I hadn't even imagined yet, right? And
Amen.
she truly was able to accept me where I was, and so and didn't didn't rush to the discouragement of her friends and families, because especially because we came from a different culture. So I got to say that part right. So since I was coming from the Nigerian Nigerian culture, there were a lot of questions there if it was is going to be alignment, or if we were able to be on the same page. And so to your point of what you just stated, it's realizing that we're more alike than different ultimately in so many ways. And so being able to recognize, because she ultimately was rooted in the foundation of the Most High, she was able to sense that same root, that same connection there. And so that was always what kept us grounded, through just like and so through any discouragement, any beefs, any things that went on, we were able to just still come back together, because it was like, nah, like this my lady, like this my representation of the Most High. This is the one the Most High has sent me to be able to choose, be able to connect with, and be able to procreate with, because one thing I'm seeing is just like too many brothers aren't able to finish the families that they've started. It's becoming it's becoming, we gotta finish the families we start. We have to. We're just starting families, then we're hopping around to another families. Then this she say something we don't like, then we hop over here. Then she say something we don't like, then we go over here. And at some point, to your point of the Shannon Sharp theory, right? We got to be sharper than that. We gotta right to the Shannon Sharp theory. That's what it is now, brothers. A theory.
The Shannon Sharp thing.
Yo,
Yeah,
I
man.
just made that up right now, cuz
You smell.
listen,
That's funny.
the Shannon Sharp theory, cuz like right, cuz it's an algorithm, you know, right?
Yeah.
And I love how we as a people we just forgot what Ye said. We ain't even we were
Oh
just
man,
like
Ye's a whole different ball game. I mean, I don't even know where to start with him. I mean, we talked about him. Um, but before I go there,
facts. You got to
um,
think your head around that one,
yeah,
right?
that Ye's a whole different ball game. I mean, like he's attempting to unravel something that he's gotten caught up in, right?
That's so
So
real, bro.
um he's the original fall guy. That's all.
Mm.
That's what Ye is, but that's what he represents. And the only way he's going to get himself out of that is by literally he has to take himself out with it. Like he's got to. It's a lot. That's a very
Let's be honest.
deep conversation. But there was something else that you had said that I wanted to jump on because it was very profound as always.
Finishing those families that we started.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes,
All
that
right,
one
I'm
right
here
there,
with you.
man. When a father right creates a family or brings a child into this world through a woman, and he then leaves or abandons his responsibility as a father figure in that woman's life, it sets up the trajectory of the relationships that she'll have with any other man along her journey in life. And that is one of the things that the next man has to deal with, which caused a further rift in the original breakage of the nuclear family, right? So, for example, when a woman or when a father has a child, more specifically a daughter, and he's not in that daughter's life, that daughter grows what we call daddy issues, and now she no longer trusts men, or she over trusts men in a way that is unhealthy. Either way, there's an imbalance on her perspective of what a man is and what a man looks like, because she hasn't had a man in her life to show her what a real man should do or fulfill in her life. So it makes it harder for young men who are trying to be intentional with a woman. It makes it harder for the woman to identify what a good man looks like, and it sets them up for failure if they don't, if and only if they don't develop a relationship with God, the heavenly Father. So that is why Christianity is so important, especially in young women's life and men. Because when a woman who is not being raised by a leader of the household, which would be her father or a father figure, doesn't have that presence, or a young man for that matter, they know they have to go back to the spiritual father who will never abandon or forsaken them, right? Uh, it says the Bible says that I think in First Timothy's a letter to Paul. You're good, baby. The Bible says that even if we are unfaithful, he remains faithful because he cannot deny himself. So therefore, he's not going anywhere. He's going to, your heavenly father exists. And although you don't see this heavenly father, make no mistake about it. He's right behind you every step you make. Matter of fact, he knew every step you were going to make. So it is sad when a woman, young woman or young man doesn't grow up with a father or a father figure in their life, but it is not because they don't have a father. They have a heavenly father, but their earthly father shortcomings may cause their mental capacity to be affected in a temporal standpoint.
No, that's big, bro. That's big, bro. That's reminding people of their heavenly Father is what we're here to do, man. And I appreciate you for reminding them of that because that's key, bro. Because a lot of times we have to also remember humans fail, and it's what we call failure. Ultimately, I'm learning is data points. We're sentient beings. It's our duty to record and log data so that we can get it better for the next generation. Our job is to pass that information, that learning, that wisdom on to our children so that
And
they can then do it better. So that's key. That's so key what you just said right there.
did you say at some point you're going to bring your son into the
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's,
he was rowdy at first, but yeah, I'm talking about
oh, okay.
I gave him that little dad glare. I'm talking about he chilled out on him. So I'm saying
How
he
old is
see
your
me.
son?
He's going on two now.
Okay,
July
yeah,
July
I
will
got
be 2.
1 year old, so I'm right behind you.
Yeah. I see you, man. Because that's a lot of what we're seeing right there is just like the ability for us to also make that more regular, right? Because it's if you're not able to show your family, be in alignment with your family, especially because we want to be able to show him the digital aspect, because this is also going to just only get bigger, right? This
Mm.
stage that and the platform that not only you created for yourself, but we're creating here at Lovepreneurship Podcast, and so this is key what we're doing and the courage, the risk it takes to be able to put ourselves out there. So I definitely want to give you that encouragement and to also just keep making sure you make it a family business because to your point, I really hear alignment all around there too because not only now is it the daughter being the common ground, but you all also having common background in graphic design is also one thing that's going to propel y'all as you're now starting to see that lovepreneurship come together. So definitely let that be what in this season, which because also when we're also talking about home life, the beautiful thing, what I hear is, and this is probably the best way to start, because really we can make this a presentation right now. I'll give y'all the free game right now, because you know how we do this. What I'm hearing is an ebook, an ebook to document your journey. You know,
Mm.
she needs to start vlogging, whether it just becomes her mompreneur journey, right?
Hmm.
Being a first time, a new mother. Because to your point, a lot of young ladies aren't getting that etiquette, right? How to be a lady, how to be a wife more specifically. They know how to be a lady on the internet, but not necessarily a wife on the internet, right? And so to be able to really take that lesson, that teaching, that's one thing that I'm always showing my wifey, and she's also showing me how to better represent myself. Because I come from the Nubian aspect, so we, and to your point of even just football, we supposed to be walking around with our shirts off. But when you're
Yep.
married to you have to do it in season and in taste, and it also has to be in context, right? Because also one thing I'm
Right.
seeing too is just also like it makes sense when we're working out, for example, shirt being off, right? But if it's just a regular random, then it has to be better explained, or it really just has to be. I really have to be ripped up like that. You know what I mean? It just that's just really how the science works. So it really would be more. So what I'm seeing is like we as men figuring out that standard of
Hmm.
where it's still we're able to be modest, but at the same time allow her to also be comfortable. Because to your point, they'll always even if they get exactly what they're asking for, they will still find something to be unhappy about. And when I say they, I mean we, really, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
We, her, and us, right? In the sense of how we relate to each other. So one thing I'm seeing is just being able to be more like, so really three things that I'm seeing that was given by the master teacher, right? Is one, to your point, severely simple living, right? Self study, and giving all your praise to the Most High, right? Those are the three things in any situation that we can do that will always get us back on track, right? Severely simple living, right? So a lot of time we don't need a lot of stuff, you know. It's just the reality, and once we always
yeah,
remind ourselves of that, you'll be able to get more because it's all perspective and what you move around, and then to the point self study because we're always changing. So you got to study who you are to the season. So I love what you even came out here with saying. I had to look at which team I was playing for. That's what my brother said. Like that's so deep, bro. And
yeah,
if I was being used as an instrument, an agent of destruction, or an agent of foundation and building it up. And so that's so good that you recognize which team you were playing for. So that means you were really always playing for that team. They were just trying to leverage your gifts on the other side. They wanted you to go D1, right? They wanted you to hold those dreams of D1 so that you wouldn't have the mental capacity to do what you're doing now. Because if you really look at it, a lot of our good brothers, to your point of the Mandingos, are wrecking their mind. They're
oh
they're they're smashing their heads every day like rams. And then aren't able to comfortably pick up their daughter. They're tired at home. They got to rest. You know, so it's so real. We can't even do
I
our work.
mean,
So talk to that
it's
point.
like Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp was a Hall of Fame tight end, and no knock on Onk, that's what he called. I just think that when you get into a space where you're conditioned to believe that you've made it somewhere, and you're just in a simulation of what made it looks like, until they show you that, hey, we'll slap that lawsuit on you at any time you act out of pocket. That's when you wake back up and like, damn. And that's when
I'm glad.
Kanye has never played football a day in his life. You can tell, but you can see he's awoken to the understanding that, wow, they have me checkmate. You know what I'm saying? Like this
Yeah.
chess I thought I was playing to become the race to become a billionaire. This money was never mine to begin with.
Mm.
And when you and it brings me to another point. One thing
That's
you
so
could
good, bro.
do, and this is something I struggle with, but that 10% that you are unwilling to give God is a clear indication that you have too much of a unhealthy attachment to the God of mammon,
Mm.
right? The God of money, and you can't serve two gods. So you gotta choose. You either gonna show God your fealty and give him what He's giving you, because the Bible also says that nothing you plant or nothing you water grows from your own hands, but is gifted. The all growth comes from God.
Mm.
So to understand these things is to be wise in how you treat them, right? If you hold on and hoard money or chase women, that is exactly the God, or the God that you serve,
Mm.
right? Because it isn't the God of Abraham. That's for sure. So it's a lot, man, to unravel, and I really love this lovepreneurship concept that you have. Um, my life is nothing but entrepreneurship. I come from a third generational family business. We've been gifted, blessed, and highly favored throughout the third generation, which I am. I'm in my own studio space that I own in South Philadelphia, and I'm surrounded by equipment. And then the entrepreneurship is dope because right next to me, you guys can't see it on camera, but I have the loves of my life. I have my daughter and my fiance, and
Yeah.
I'm practicing speaking prophetically because spiritually I'm married to my wife, which I will call my wife, and
Yeah.
it's in prophetic speech because that's exactly what she is to me. She is the final stage of relationships that I'm going to have on this earth. Uh,
Yeah.
get to share it with my dream. I always say I get to share it with my dream woman. So
Come on, bro, man. Drop that wife for drop that. Let me drop that mic for
I'm
wifey in the background,
like,
man. Man, wifey. I know you heard that, man. You heard that cook your man just gave you, man. He gave you that Riz, man. That little Christian Riz on it, yeah, man. Listen, that's it, man. That's what we need in this day and time. Our men talking to that heart space of our women. We got to get that divine masculine just to tap into that communication. We can never shut down. That's the key. What I'm seeing, it's our duty. The marriage is for us in the sense of it's we were the one that proposed to them, right? And so we have to honor them and make sure that we take care of them, right? That we keep to our commitment, that we keep our loyalty, that we keep our high in good favor to them. Because in truth, to your point, they're our intercessor. She just pulled a baby out the ether, cuz. You know what I'm talking about? Is how to look at that. She just
I was in
started
the
it.
room. I seen it. I said, "Oh, that's man. No man I no man I've ever met is strong enough to endure that kind of pain. No
Come on,
man.
bro. Come
You
on,
know.
bro.
So she got my respect the moment I seen that experience. Oh my goodness, I was ready to pass out for her. So yeah,
Real talk, bro. Yo, it's so real, bro. Yo, that's what I be trying to explain to him. It's like it's like to your point of that, like God has given women so much, and so man has to be able to respect and be able to measure himself by his ability to take care of that woman. If we're looking at beings like someone says X, if we were even talking XX chromosomes, like right, it's they they're the ones that pass on the mitochondria DNA, right? So it's why a lot of the babies end up looking like her, more specifically, or especially when it's a daughter, right? They
mm-hmm.
you always got to look like the lady, right? Because they're the ones passing down a lot of this to us, and so we just have to start getting in tune. Like if we she it truly, and when we're saying helpmate, right? Like it's more in truth, we are there protect and serve. We're their military. We're their
Yep.
police. We're their hey, take a step back for her so she can continue this multiplication. You did like
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's really about. And so that's really why the penal system, right? The police system says that they protect and serve because their job was to try to replace that feeling from you, in addition to the wellness checks, and in addition to the welfare checks, the welfare cards as well, right? These were their ways of protecting and serving our women and trying to replace us out of that role, because that's one of the most important things. And it's not just financially, right? It's with our presence, right? We gotta support her with our mental, right? We gotta support her spiritually. We gotta support her soul, right? We gotta support her destiny. Being able to teach her where she is going after this is a lot of what she's truly seeking for, right? And so our ability to do self-study and inform her, outform her of this information will be, or outformation, right, of where she's gonna go, is gonna be the difference, because it's one of those things that many men aren't truly able to hone their minds in on, to the point of the Shannon Sharp theory, right? We're too lustful. Yeah, he gonna catch strays this whole interview, bro. You know what I'm
I'm
saying? So that's what I'm saying is with that theory that we have to get away from, right? We have to be able to check our lust, right? Because I've never seen lust lead a man somewhere. You dig it?
It
It's
doesn't.
truly
It's
yet
not
to happen.
designed that way. It's designed. It's fleeting, right? So you keep chasing it, and you need more of it. You need more of it until you encounter what we call succubines or succubus, and those are sex demons. People, those are demons that can now tether themselves to every sexual encounter you have, and really ruin your life. They take you way further than you want to go, to a point where you black out and somehow you wake up and you got you did things, you took things too far. Someone said no, you kept going because you were mentally tapped out, and this demon took over your body because you allowed it into your flesh.
Mm.
So I mean, and you talked about, let's talk about astral projecting and dreams and things of that nature. um Man, I'll leave you with this. I don't really experience much astral projection, but what I do experience, or I have pondered on, is that there's a clear distinction to the spirit and the vessel, which is this organic machine that we operate in the realm of reality every time we go to sleep. And it specifically says that to be absent of the body is to be present with the Lord. Now, from a biblical standpoint, the clarity is there. All the evidence you need to support the spirit being something totally separate from the body is clearly there. But from a tangible standpoint, or at least semi quasi tangible, you can start to identify that something strange is happening when this body falls asleep. You no longer have control over motor functions and things of that nature. So when you're in this slumber, you have to ask yourself, my body is at rest, but where am I? Because
Mm.
I'm continuing to experience things in what I would consider to be a spirit realm or another realm. So I never truly sleep. So if you can really cling on to that, there's that version, there's that quote in the Bible that says that do not fear those who can kill the body, but fear him who can. It says, do not fear those who can kill the body but cannot kill the soul,
Mm.
but fear him who can kill both the soul and the body in hell. And when you can understand that the soul is designed to live forever, the soul
Mm.
literally is designed to not be killed, but only can be killed by God or destroyed by God through in hell, right? So it's very, very clear that when you sleep, or even when you die, or when you do hard drugs and you're in this halfway space, you're toting the line between the spirit realm and the realm of reality. And it's just that simple. So the fear of death is idiotic. It's actually unwise because you experience death every time you go to sleep because it's just being absent of the body.
Mm. That's good. That's good, man. That's the fourth, man. That's the fourth on it, man. We in that fourth plane, man. That's almost at that 5D level, you know. So I'm hearing that astral project. To your point, you know, definitely for me, astral projections have been key. Have been they come when I need them most. Is to your point. I know brothers who are able to when they seek to astral project, they go do that, you know. And so that's where we're trying to get to that level where it's more on command, because that would, to my opinion, be reflective of having the power that we're seeking, right? Whether it is that connection, right? Because that's ultimately what we're all. We think, to your point, it's the money that will give us the connection with the Most High. But I love what you just stated there too, where if we're not even able to give the 10% of the money that the Most High has given him, because it's not even, because to your point, it's not about the money. It's more the test on you, right? It's more on, will you part from this thing that you love so much? You know, this thing that the world has told you you love so much, and will you be able to invest in others? Will you be able to invest in another entity? Will you be able to invest in your wife? Will you be able to invest in your children? Or will you just hoard it, right? Will you just keep it to yourself and only use it to better what you got going on, or will you use it to invest in the kingdom?
And one more thing to that kind of add is that you may not even love the money, but you may be fearful of what being without money looks like. You know
Woo.
what I'm saying? And that can be a hindrance to your relationship and growth with God because only God can provide growth. So it's the spirit of fear, the spirit of the stinginess, the spirit of selfishness, the spirit of what I love the most is they call it a scarcity
Oh, I'm
mentality.
sorry. Michael done connected to my car. Hold on. Let me transfer.
Is that your wife?
Oh, no, no, no! It went out for a second. I heard the spirit of stinginess, and then say the last part.
Okay. And then the one that I love the most is the scarcity mentality, the
Okay.
idea of having to do without,
Mm,
and that's what primarily we seen with the Israelites is
mm,
a scarcity mentality. They got scared when times got tough, and they walked away from God and
mm,
tried to find a new way or a self way of performing what they needed to perform in order to survive, right? Or they doubted God, And a lot of times, when you're not willing to give that 10%, it's not because you love money, it's because you doubt what God can do for your life. It's
Wow.
about you doubt God can
Good.
multiply for you.
That's good,
And
bro.
the Israelites showed us what that looks like when you turn your back on God or when you doubt the Almighty. You get punished for it. So when you start finding yourself in trials and tribulations or in exile from God's promises and his covenants, right? Which will transfer over to your children, right? Because God doesn't break his covenants. It just takes what it takes to get to them. And when you're not on your spiritual journey with God and walking with him and abiding by his will and his law, then you'll ultimately set yourself up for failure, just much like Moses, who was the second most famous prophet, who didn't even get a chance to enter the promised land. So yeah, it's a lot. It's deep to it. Somebody said astral projection is an intentional out of body experience where consciousness separates from the physical body and travels through the astral plane using a subtle body called the astral body.
Okay, okay,
Astral,
woman of God, drop them gems. And let's give woman of God a round of applause because she been dropping
yeah,
gems all
she
night. She
been
been
dropping.
saying
Yeah.
facts. Amen. Yes, Yahweh is our Abba, our Father. She also said strong fathers create strong daughters. She said that's right. She said everything that glitters isn't gold. Find you a real queen. She said she agreed. Good job, guys. Sounds like a perfect partner. Our brother Silver Lightning said. He
Uh,
also said, but money spoke louder. Brother said Justin B spreading cheeks for Diddy's money and being
yeah.
over a decade independent superstar and then start crying about it when Diddy's got arrested. Like, dude could have had prevented so many sexual assaults. He also said there were so many Diddy victims.
Oh, you went out for a second. Dang. Still there? Oh, I think somebody.
Amen.
Oh yeah. I think so, I think your voice went out for a little bit. I think your Bluetooth might be touching somebody's car.
Oh, yeah, you hear me now?
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. And so we hear a woman. She so the part she said, "Congratulations, brother Silver Lightning." We're talking about the music industry is effed up, and so that's key right there, man. So appreciate the comments. Continue to like, share, and subscribe. Add those comments and send and received messages in dreams, so when they were asleep, and then also to point of John, vision, so while awake, right? Because those are two different things, right? A vision and a dream, right? And so we have to be real talk, right? And so John is one of the most important figures in our modern day Bible, in particular, because iteration, right? So everything he wrote last was God's latest message. We should do this. And so it even trumps what I'm realizing. What I always have to separate now is the Pauline Church and the Messianic Church, right? Because there's two different churches at war. If you notice it, right? A lot of them quote the New Testament, but then I hear people saying we need that old time religion. You dig? We need that Abrahamic thing that also reminded us that the son of Ishmael is who the one of the Kedar, which is who Muhammad came from, and so it all comes back to us all observing the same, coming from the same lineage, right? And being able to be respectful of that truth. And so I'm saying that's a key piece right there. Is astral projection or these visions that John that talked about in Revelations in particular was given when he was in particular imprisoned, right? So it's also another reflection that even when they tried to imprison the man, right, or they tried to lock your mind up through the psychological attacks that we see through these sharing sharp theories, right? Our ability to connect with the Most High and rain down that information and download that
Mississippi. That's why I have the Mississippi telephone.
can count on.
Yeah,
Can you
yo,
hear me now?
something keeps jumping over, and then I keep hearing the voice of a woman talking. into. So I think there might be like
Okay.
Bluetoothing.
Okay. Now you're right. That means yeah, white. That means wifey pulled up. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, you was
yeah,
calling it. Okay. Can you hear me now?
yeah. We hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So wifey was probably talking. She was probably talking all her business. It's probably
Yeah,
live now. Everybody heard it.
yeah.
Nah, nah. That's cool.
She
That's cool. But
seemed like a very well business minded individual. A lot of business acumen in the way that she was delivering whatever who she was talking.
facts. I already know she talking that too. Yes. So yes. John the beloved chosen disciples. And yes. Yes. You know, wifey always handling the business there. And so to your point too. You know, being able to be the beloved chosen disciples, right? So we got to be able to learn from the latest information that those chosen disciples have left us. And so John has been critical in this particular day and time because the vision, one of the visions he saw was basically what we would describe today, you know. And so in that vision, for example, he was talking about seeing what we would ultimately describe to be the helicopters, or to be the mushroom clouds, right? Or the warfare that we're noticing, right?
Yep.
And so it's interesting, right? When we really speak about the Bible, right? This isn't a pleasant book, right? When we really look at its reality, right? When we wonder, like, if is God and everything God, right? Is God an all seeing God? Does he do everything? Which means that, so even in Genesis, right? So now the man has become one of like us. He knows the difference between good and evil, right? And so God is not one way, he is it all, but doesn't rely on his evil. I do believe, because he has warned us, right? It shows you his compassion. It
Mm.
shows you his ability to not rush to things and give man adequate time to make preparations and or prepare their mind for the coming destruction of the old world for a new world, right? Because the new world is supposed to come down, right? And so, to your point of those in love with mammon, those in love with money, those with love with getting the mark of the beast, whether it's through forced different inoculations, right?
Hmm.
Being able to recognize, because ultimately, right, that's another way they're doing it through now. If you aren't able to choose where you work, right, or if you don't have this, then you can't work here. That's another way they're forcing people
Yeah,
to make decisions.
especially with that coronavirus or the COVID-19 vaccination. That was crazy. That was real
That
crazy.
really happened, bro. Ain't it funny how now they're trying to pretend like it didn't happen, bro?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like we
Interesting.
didn't inject something into us that we don't know anything about. A lot of things changed about my biology after like a year or two in after that. And I'm like, yo, this is strange, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. Nah, man, this has been dope, man. I appreciate you allowing me to come on your platform. When you come back to the east side, let me know. We could definitely sit down and do an in-person conversation and really dig into some of those dreams you've been having and those visions that you're speaking of, because they're more important than we think. You literally, quite literally, can discern the truth from non-truths through the spirit realm. You
Come on, man.
know, so yeah, it's been dope, man. I really
That's
do
it, bro.
appreciate this
I appreciate
opportunity.
you, man. You're a wealth of knowledge. I hear pastoral acumen. I
Mm,
do. I
appreciate
say we're a generation that you ain't got to go to no school for that. And most times they gonna just teach you the Pauline version where you messianic for real. Just I want to even give you that distinction. You're more messianic, which just meaning more that you are standing more on what the Most High prophet's son that he sent down. If they're calling him Yeshua or Jesus or Haru or Tammuz, whichever name that they're choosing, right? You're definitely more reflective, more representing of that nature, right? Because you are calling people to the Most High, right? While other people are just calling their attention to a prophet of the Most High, right? Or to one of the disciples, or lesser this or a lesser saint, or saint this or saint that. But being able to always say what Jesus said is, I am no stronger than he who sent me. and being able to always bring our people's memory to that is your power. I'm seeing already, and so definitely, bro.
I
Through
appreciate
all day, bro. What I'm even hearing is like pop out. Really, I'm hearing pop out with your church because that really is what your lady. That could be her role right there. Is what I'm hearing. She
it.
could be the first lady. You dig, and that makes sense, bro. Collecting tithes and donations, and we do this on a 501c3 level for real. So look, we can really talk about that for HOF. It can be HOF Church. You dig,
Oh,
and
yo, there you
then
go. 501c, yeah.
say it again.
Nonprofits are always, it's man, we in an attack right now from a worldly perspective. I mean, Trump is coming in trying to shut all that down. He understands that the church survives off of those tax exemptions and donations and things of that nature. The gates of hell will not prevail against the church, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to try. You know what I'm saying? So,
They will form.
um, and that's nothing to be afraid of, but it's to understand that we're nearing the time of the return of Christ because of the symbols and signs of that are going on and throughout the world. I'm not sure that it'll be in our lifetime, or no man knows the day or the hour, but we know that it is coming. And with that, we can be confident that we need to align ourselves with the true God and the truth of this world in Jesus Christ. So, like I said, man, you got a powerful platform here. I wish I got to it sooner, but it's right in time for me and the walk that I'm on. So I definitely 100% will be tapped in and sharing some of this content on Hall of Faith Media, which, by the way, it used to be called Hot or Flop Media when it was secular. And then I said, I want to say like HOF Media. So I said, let me turn it into Hall of Faith Media. So
Wow.
I'm working
Man,
on it.
man, man, man. Reading that realm, you hit 2 points there. The Pope just passed, right? So talking
Mm,
about the signs and the times, and to your
yeah.
point, Shannon Sharp Hall of Fame, or him feeling like he made it because he made it to the Hall of Fame, and then you having to create your own Hall of Fame, bro. That's reading. I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about the pass of the guard, right? The pass of the energy in terms of what our people need, and for you to do that, right, to see yourself as already in position to be that next level where you're having real live interviews to that energy. I do think that is definitely the next, or you're already positioned for that for real. And so definitely seeing yourself already in that light is going to take it to the next level. But yeah, I'm definitely here to leave. I said church, but I meant tabernacle, right? Tabernacle is the word, and more specifically, because they said they were going to put you all out the synagogue, right? So the people that where Jesus was speaking to were the Jews, right? So he said that they were going to take. They were literally going to what they're doing today. They're going to take your position, right? They're going to kick you out of what you all do, and so you're going to have to reclaim the tabernacle, right? You're going to have to reclaim that tabernacle of the Most High, and so that's what we're creating out there. And so you hear my youngin getting restless. We're gonna stop this out because it's that game time. I hear the Hall of Fame in the background. Make sure that you are taking this to the next level. This is the Lovepreneurship Podcast. I am your host, Michael Afani X. This is Apollo OKO. Make sure you check him out. Make sure you check out the videos. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe because we just talked about a lot of dope information, divine information that you're going to need to excel your divine elevation and take yourself to the next level. Choose that woman of God. Finish that family that you started. Shout out to the woman of God in that comment moderating as well. Make sure you choose that tabernacle of the Most High because it's our duty. It's our job to create that tabernacle. And on that note, we're closing out. Amen.
Amen. All right, brother.